Good evening. I am Cynthia Elliott, President of the Rochester Board of Education. Today is May 7th. We're here to adopt for a special meeting for the 24-25 budget adoption. I'm going to turn it over to Vice President LeBron, who chairs our Finance Committee, but I also want to thank.
Two speakers.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. But let me just finish my thought on this. I do want to thank Superintendent Peluso and Chief Financial Officer Sean Farr. I know that Vice President will share her thanks as well. But we're thankful that we're here and we're through this process of budget deliberation and now here for adoption. So we do have a couple of speakers on the list to speak on behalf, regarding the budget, and so I'm going to call first Lynn Mordenga. And I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening, Dr. Peluso and Commissioners. My name is Lynn Mordenga, and I am here on behalf of the Very Invested VIPs Advocacy Group of the Children's Agenda. I also have two children in the district, one who is a senior and another who is starting out as RCSD's journey in pre-K. This upcoming year's budget makes many investments the VIPs and the Children's Agenda support. We want to thank the administration and board for these investments while pushing them to follow through on efforts that will take multiple years to accomplish, like telehealth in every building and the expansion of mental health satellite clinics. We also want the board to not lose sight of the ongoing challenges and transitions this next school year will bring, especially with school reconfiguration and the need to cut 50 full-time positions in central office. We do understand there needs to be cutbacks with staffing. We ask you to take note that this next school year, families need ongoing communication, especially in regards to this process. Families are left wondering what is to come in September, so the ongoing communication is necessary on a district level. Therefore, we urge you not to make any more staffing reductions in the area of communications and school chiefs. I especially want to advocate on behalf of our most vulnerable families the support that is necessary for our students with disabilities, my own younger son being one of them. The board must ensure that the Committee on Special Education, CSE meetings, and the Committee on Preschool Special Education meetings happen on time so kids are properly evaluated and placed where they can succeed. 20% of Rochester City School District students are classified as having disability, one of the highest rates of any school district in New York State. While some serious improvements have been made by RCSD, including a 70% parent participation rate at Committee on Special Education meetings, there's still work to be done. 6.5% of Committee on Special Education meetings were overdue last school year. Timely and accurate evaluations are crucial to student success because these evaluations determine the services the student will receive. My own son just received his annual review for his individualized education plan meeting, but I was not aware of this date until recently. I actually found out from one of his service providers that his date was coming up, but I heard no communication from the district until today. I believe this is because there's not enough adequate staffing in the preschool and special education departments. Again, I'm frustrated that we as parents are the last to know about our child's progress, and communication is not a two-way partnership. With this lack of communication, many children will continue to fall through the cracks. Therefore, I continue to urge the district to assign adequate staffing to administer the Committee of Special Education meetings and Committee on Preschool Special Education meetings so they are done in a timely manner which is legally compliant. Thank you. I would also like to submit my written testimony to you.
Thank you, Ms. Mordenga. The next speaker is Lashana Booth.
Good evening. So good evening, commissioners, staff, superintendent, parents, community members. My name is Lashana Booz. I am a parent and resident of Rochester. I'm here on behalf of my children and Ready, who is a nonprofit organization formed to support parents in Rochester to increase the number of quality schools. Today, we are all here with concerns and questions about the budget process. I strongly believe the budget process lacks parental involvement and places us at a significant disadvantage. We as parents are eager to engage and be active partners in this crucial process, yet our exclusion undermines both the transparency and effectiveness on the budget decisions made today. Presenting budget tools that span 300 pages without adequate support for review is simply unacceptable. This approach not only overwhelms parents, but also obstructs our ability to provide meaningful input and feedback. Our children, the very individuals impacted by these budgetary decisions, are the ones who suffer most from this lack of inclusivity and transparency. The district did not fulfill its promise. The district did not fulfill its promise and fell short on engaging in participatory budget planning this year with the community. Moving forward, I ask humbly that we overhaul our budget process to ensure that it is accessible, transparent, and inclusive for more parents. This means providing parents with the necessary support and resources to understand and engage with the budgetary documents effectively. By doing so, we can harness the collective wisdom and passion for our community to enact positive change and truly prioritize the well-being and academic achievement of all our students here in Rochester. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our speakers list, and so I'm going to turn it over to Vice President LeBron, who, as I said, chairs our Finance Committee. And I want to just thank Vice President LeBron. Our Vice President has had some challenges this month and last month, and still she has been able to lead this process with the superintendent and with the chief financial officer in the midst of her own personal challenges. And so I just want to commend our vice president for the effort. And even though her own challenges, we've been able to have a successful budget process, parents included. And we're now here to, consider the adoption of this budget. Thank you, Vice President.
Thank you, President Elliott. I do want to uplift, though, participatory budgeting and something that I support. I do want to point out, though, that when I started even bringing in the tool, I started with a different CFO, who we now have an incredible CFO, and I'm concerned we're not going to be able to keep him. And the reality is we're going to get yet another CFO. I'm hoping he stays. Let me just put this on the record. But I think it's really difficult when we unfortunately don't have stability with the people that actually have to do the day-to-day. But I do want to acknowledge that our parent rep who serves on this committee, Deveth, and her interpreter are joining us via Zoom, as well as our state monitor, and the superintendent Blocker from East EPO. And I also want to thank Shifar and his team for the incredible amount of work and the uplift of doing all of the focus groups with multiple agencies and families to get the book where it's at. And I want to recognize that our commitment to go back to those focus groups, to go back to those parents, to continue getting information and feedback so that we can better the book itself, so that people have a better understanding of how dollars are spent within the district. With that, though, I am going to go down the line. If anybody has any comments or questions regarding the budget itself, this will be the time to make your statements, and then I will ask for a motion for the budget adoption and so forth. So with that, I will just start right to the left with Commissioner Griffin.
Good evening, everyone. Well, this is my first term, actually, in reviewing the RCSD budget. And I have quite a few concerns. I don't even know if they are really questions. It just seems as though it lacks a transparency in some areas where, and I apologize because I am under the weather, but I felt that this was important that I be here today to address the community regarding my concerns. I have a problem with the community-based organizations and monies being removed from them. And I'm not understanding why the monies were removed from these community-based organizations where it's going to impede our parents that go to work at 6 o'clock in the morning when our schools don't open at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I'm kind of concerned about how these children are going to be, how are they going to be bused when we already we have transportation issues and the parents have to go to work at 6 o'clock. So I just don't understand some of the things that we have done to what I think is to increase our enrollment. I have that as a concern. I have a concern with the infrastructure when we're closing schools. Like 58, we have 58 with no gymnasium, no athletic outdoors, and we have Jefferson High School, which has a big old field which is not being utilized, and we have Marshall that's not being utilized. I have a lot of questions about our structure and our organization and how it's being and how our money is being allocated, because we have so many holes in different areas. So I'm like I said, I'm still learning a lot of things, but I just don't understand where the money is going and how we can take away from organizations like the ABC Center and things of that like that in the community when we don't have transportation to get our kids to school now, but we want to increase our enrollments by shutting down COBs for the daycares. I just don't get that point. So
Okay,
maybe let me address that first.
If it's not related to this actual budget and this time, I think you're bringing up other issues, and I think you may tread on potentially forcing the superintendent to respond to some things that I do not think will make that organization look in the best light with the facts. So if there are no other comments, I am going to ask that commissioners keep their comments at this time to 2 to 3 minutes max so that we can just move through. I also have the parent with the translator joining as well, so I definitely want to give her time. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Malloy so we can keep it moving.
Thank you. Good evening. Although I do have a few concerns here or there, I think I've voiced those concerns on the question log. I think this is a balanced budget. We did just receive a letter from City Hall, and I would like to see some of those concerns that were brought up by City Hall addressed at our next budget meeting. I know the revised budget process, rather, I'm sorry. I would like to see some revisions. Other than that, I think that this is a well-planned budget for the most part, and although there's always room for improvement in what it looks like, I'd love to see our budget focus more on the board goals, for instance, although they are right at the beginning of the budget book. I really respect the work that's been done. Thank you, Mr. Farr. Thank you, Superintendent. But it will be a yes for me this evening. Thank you.
Commissioner Simmons.
Thank you, and thank you for your dedication, Mr. Farr, that went into this budget, and all the team that worked to try to balance it and make sure that we had things where we need to. I do have a couple of questions. I want to start with, I just heard Commissioner Malloy state the revised budget. When is that timeline? When will we be having those discussions? When can we expect that?
So we are continuously, so we received, some of the budget information from the board that we will revisit, and we're going to come back. Like I said, we're going to constantly look at numbers. How we staff is based on projected enrollment. We got to look at staffing. We're going to make some tweaks based on where our current enrollment is and what we could add in. And I think we're looking for a June submission to come back to kind of share where we were able to fit those requests that came to us last week into the budget. But we have full commitment to make sure that those asks that the board came from are part of this budget.
Okay, and so I'll have continued conversations in the timeline of this revised budget, hoping that I do see some things. I did see some communication, so I'm happy around communications. I'm hoping we can see some pieces that really, I think, lend well to branding our district in a good way. And I see some responses to HCI. One thing I'm very happy about is the instructional piece, wanting to see that our schools are getting the supports that are needed to ensure education is the forefront of what this institution does. So I'm happy to see some of that coming in, but I do want to follow up on some communications, hoping that happens. And then as far as the city the city's response to the extended day, there's one other program that I want to ask about, and I think that's an offline conversation to see.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I also want to address, the city council had asked for some information regarding the format of the information they received. We will make sure that they get that information prior to their vote in June. I don't want to change how we did our budget, because that's how we have to submit it to the state. That's how we have to provide information. That's the way we should be doing this moving forward, but we will make sure that we provide them with the information that they requested as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons. I'm going to go to Commissioner Santiago.
Yeah, thank you. I do have a couple questions, and one of them I just want to voice my concern also with some of the other commissioners about the summer programs. I think that those are important things that we should definitely cover to ensure that, you know, we're taking care of our children not only during the school year, but also during the summer. I also do have a quick question. So I know that there's a goal for an increase in our percentage of students who are proficient in reading and literacy. I know that there's a goal for the upcoming year. If you don't mind saying what that goal is.
So in our strategic plan, we said by the end of 2028, 29, we wanted to be at that 40% range, right? For 2024, we're shooting for that 20% range for 3 through 8.
Okay, and so my question, and this is just a reflection from yourself, but do you believe that you know the budget it has enough allocated towards that area to really accomplish that goal?
We've targeted more resources to that for reading in particular, and we organize our resources a little bit more strategically. Because once again, money is always going to be a finite object. It's going to be how we organize what it is we have to be focused on our goals. And that's where I'd also say one of the biggest lifts we have is our strategic plan, because that's going to force us to make sure those decisions are made on how we organize ourselves as a district.
Okay, and then also, I know that there's plans to expand the telehealth in schools. In this budget, do we know exactly how much we're expanding?
So yes, that was, I got to look, I'm going to look at Deputy Superintendent Turner. So we fronted in the $6 million initiative. It was a $6 million initiative. We received 1.2 million. We put in 1.2 million of our federal stimulus money. That money has been expended and out the door. We have money from the county, we have money from ESL, we have money from Wegmans that's now going to fund the backside of this because federal stimulus is coming, and we don't have the 1.2 million to continue on that, so that it will be reimbursable for Medicaid, so that it could be reimbursable through Medicaid. I will say that telehealth, we are set to go, I believe, I'm looking at Deputy Superintendent Turner, in all buildings for acute illnesses, and we're looking to add more and more of the mental health support in each of those telehealth situations.
Then last question, and I'm done. So I know that there's been an increase in mental health workers. I just want to ensure that that's reinstated, because I know that that's a concern for our young people and our parents all around the city. But then also our school clinics. I know that there's been plans to expand that. How does that look in this next budget year?
So school clinics, we're expanding, right? And all of the counselor supports, all of our social worker supports, those all remain. I do think we're, as a board, going to have some discussions around, as resources become a little bit more finite. We were lucky to have $38 million in increased revenue this year. We may not get that next year. Some of those conversations got to be had about how much goes towards instructional, how much goes to social emotional learning, and really kind of having some discourse around that is going to be, we were able to fund it this year, but I do worry about finances in the future and future budgets, and how you have to have some of that discourse to make some decisions.
Yeah, I think that this is a good discussion, certainly as we go into
This
to the
was over
next.
2 minutes, 3 minutes? Yeah. It's over 3 minutes.
As we go into the next year, as some of the legislative agenda and how we really push this for our families. I believe I'm around my 3-minute mark, so thank you.
Thank you. I want to call on Dive and the interpreter. Dive, ¿tú tienes preguntas o cosas que quieres decir?
Sí, tengo una pregunta. Mi pregunta es si en el área de educación especial los
Hold on.
servicios
Dive,
no van a
espera.
ser...
Dive, antes que tú termines, deja que el interpreter lo haga.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yvette's question is if the services to special education will be cut.
No, we actually had large increase, and if you look at the area profile, you'll see that we increased our budget for both our bilingual services and our special education services. And I think we had over a $13 million increase with our Students with Disabilities programming, and then an increase as well in our bilingual programming.
Diver.
Bilingual is around 2 million.
Yvette, ¿entiendes que van a aumentar los fondos para educación especial de 13 millones y los de servicios bilingües de 2 millones?
Ok, la otra pregunta es si van a reclutar o adiestrar más personal para trabajar con los niños de educación especial.
Will there be recruitment of more staff that work with students with special needs?
Yes, and we're also doing internal processes to ensure that we're maximizing the current staff that are certificated with students with disabilities in our classroom. So yes.
Sí, también están asegurando que personas que están trabajando ahora tienen certificado apropiado para seguir trabajando con niños con necesidades especiales.
Y el manejo de crisis también, ¿verdad? Supongo.
¿Y el qué?
Y el manejo de crisis con ellos también, ¿verdad?
She's asking, and the management of children in crisis as well?
Yes.
Sí.
Ok, gracias.
Gracias,
Thank
Diva.
you.
Thank you both. I want to acknowledge our state monitor. If you have any comments or questions at this time?
Good evening, Vice President LeBron, President Elliott, Commissioner, and the Superintendent. I just want to commend the Superintendent, the Chief Financial Officer, and the Board for the development of the 24-25 school year budget. The budget was developed with taking into consideration the 4 goals of the board and student achievement in the district. There's support for literacy in the district. There's support for special education, bilingual education, occupational education, CTE. So it is a budget that is intended to support the students and the staff and families in the Rochester City School District. So again, I would like to commend the board and the superintendent and the chief financial officer for the work that they have done for the development of this budget. It is better than the one that I went through last year with the board and the staff, and there's still some room for growth. So we're looking forward to continuing to work together to have transparency and to continue to work with the families and the staff. Great job.
Thank you. Commissioner Patterson, any comments? Get 2 to 3 minutes.
I don't have any direct comments relative to the budget, but I was just listening to the state monitor. You said there's room for growth. In what areas do you see we could have done better, if you can mention, with this budget?
Well, listening to the speaker tonight about the amount of pages that are included in the budget book, there's something that could be improved. Having more communication with the stakeholders and having more community meetings to be out there sharing that information with the families, that's another area that the district could continue to improve.
Okay, President Elliott.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President LeBron. And again, thank you for the work that's been done on this budget. And let me just say, I've heard from the board and a lot of requests, but I will just point out that we are fiduciary agents of this budget, meaning that we have to ensure that we are responsible to the taxpayers, and that we have constrained resources. And so while we ask while we have these asks, it is important that we keep in mind that we have constrained resources, and we have to ensure that the resources that we are providing are resources that really have the impact around our board goals and the strategic plan. It is important that we keep in mind. And in the letter that we received from the city, they made the comment, well, you've got this, fund balance, and, you can use some of the money for the fund balance. We don't know what the future holds for us. I can remember, and I was here, and I think Vice President LeBron was here, when we thought we had a healthy fund balance, and we did not. And I want to make sure that as we move forward, and with next generation, succeeding generations who may sit here and who we have to serve in this community, and with our students, that we're in a financial position in which we can do that. And so while I don't want us to get emotional about things, about our requests, and I know that things are needed, but again, we have constrained resources. So if we provide these services, what else are we going to perhaps not be able to provide? I mean, the ask will just never cease. We have to make sure that we are asking these requests in line of constrained resources. What I've heard, they all make sense, but we may not always have the money in which to be able to honor all of those requests. We don't know what next year is going to look like. The superintendent just mentioned about the fact that we have an additional $38 million for this year. We may not have that $38 million next year. So it is just really important that as board members, individually and collectively, we are mindful that we have to ensure that the Rochester City School District is in a solid, stable financial position. And so with that, I thank you, Vice President LeBron.
Thank you, President Elliott. With that, can I get a motion for the budget adoption for the 24-25?
But I had another statement that I wanted to make. Is that doable? Because I was cut off and I wasn't able to finish mine. You went on to Amy, so can I just make one more
Well,
statement?
let me make this motion, and I'll open the floor again, and then you can make your statement. The motion will be open. So can I get a motion for the 24-25 budget adoption? I want to name the resolution 2023-24, semicolon 776. Motion by Commissioner Malloy.
By President.
By President Elliott, seconded by Commissioner Malloy. Questions and comments? I'll call in Commissioner Griffin.
I guess I wasn't here for the conversation about the layoffs in person, and I missed that question. But my concern was that I know back when I was actually running that there was talks about the us being top heavy. What are we going to do in reference to reducing at the top instead of the bottom? I guess I have a concern with the amount of monies that are being paid out to our administration, but I don't see a positive outcome. And me as a taxpayer myself, I'm really concerned that monies are being spent, but our children are not getting fed the educational skills that they need. I sit on this board in support of our children and our people and this community. So I want to know, as a commissioner, what are we going to do at the top and stop cutting at the bottom?
Moving forward.
Carmine, do you want to respond to that, or do you want me to point out that 50 positions were cut from central office and that we had a parent tonight advocating for no more cuts, understanding that these are individuals that support our schools, and that support, especially around communications, some of the positions that were being proposed under communications are the translators. And we can't say we support equity for everybody in the community if we can't provide the translations. This district has failed for years and years and years to do. But I will, if you want to further respond, and then I'll take the vote, roll call.
We did reduce 53 positions here essentially and we did add positions back in federal stimulus to our school positions, right? And made some decisions about what we support here centrally and what we support here in schools. These are questions that, once again, that came in through the budget deliberations, we would have been able to address them as well. So I think we made some significant reductions centrally. We do have a contract with West Ed that I mentioned at deliberations too, to reorganize central office to be in a better way to support schools, which I think will be really important for next year for this district to make sure when they get those recommendations from West Ed, that they're taking them into considerations on how we could organize central office to also support our schools.
Thank you, President Elliott.
And I want to just respond to Commissioner Griffin. Commissioner Griffin, you've come at a time where we're beginning to have have improvements. You're at the point where we are really focusing in on student outcomes, that we really are meeting the needs of the families and the students in our community. It has been not a great system for 30 years or so, but I think that this board is moving it in the right direction. And I understand your concerns because you're just coming on, you're new, you're hearing what's on in the media. But I'm here to tell you, I'm very excited and very hopeful about the work that the superintendent has already begun, by the work that this board is overseeing, and by the work that district staff are doing. And so I think we're in a great position to move this district forward. And I'm hoping that you're going to be a part of that and help us to move it forward. I think those questions are good questions, but it is what it is, and we just have to continue to move forward. Superintendent has already mentioned that there are staff positions that have been reduced. We just have to continue to move it forward, and we do have to right-size this district. So that's coming. I just wanted to make that statement.
And if I could respond to you, President Elliott, I do appreciate your response to me. But I guess, like I said, and I'm going to continue to say that, you know, there's too many layers in the district, and we have to cut back these layers. Once we cut back the layers, then we will be able to, the money will be there. There's just too many layers to the district, and this is why we have the problem that we have. So when we cut back those layers, and we could have did it with this budget. I see it. I know it, and it could have been cut back, but it wasn't done. So yeah, we have a lot of work to do, But in this budget, there could have been a lot of cuts that were not made. We have people here that are not doing the job they should do, and there's nobody holding them accountable. Until that happens, we are not going to have the outcomes that we need. So I appreciate what you're saying, but I also see with my own eyes and hear with my own eyes that we need to do a lot better.
All right. I'm going to roll call at this time, and I'll start with you, Commissioner Griffin. Your vote on the budget, yay or nay?
Nay.
Commissioner Malloy?
Yay.
Commissioner Simmons?
We're still going to have more conversation, right? Okay, then I'll give you a yay.
I'm a yay. President Elliott?
Absolutely, yay.
Commissioner Santiago?
Yay.
Commissioner Patterson?
And again, I think that Commissioner Griffin's.
This is a yay or nay. I just
I
want to
think that
point that
Commissioner
out.
Griffin is right, and it's a nay for me.
Okay, thank you. And with that, we collectively have passed the board as a body, so the budget adoption, congratulations, Carmine and our CFO. That I will turn the meeting over to President Elliott as we're going into an executive.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to go into executive session to discuss matters related to the employment of a particular individual or other matters permitted by Section 105 of the Open Meetings Law, or to receive the advice and counsel of the General Counsel?
Motion.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, good night. We will close this meeting. We'll adjourn downstairs. So for this portion, good night. Yeah, no.